Hi folks, this video is just to quickly talk you through how to set out equation questions and how to substitute values into equation questions and then rearrange. So all I'm going to do is go through the first few questions on this page. For question 1, it says calculate how far a car travels in 300 seconds when it's travelling at a top speed of 30 metres per second. So the first thing that we need to do when we're doing equation questions is to write down the information that we know down the left hand side. So for this question it says how far does the car travel? So that's going to be our distance. And on the left hand side we're going to write distance equals question mark because we don't know that yet. We then go further along, how far the car travels in 300 seconds. That's going to be our time. So we're then going to put time down as 300 s for seconds. And finally it says a top speed of 30 metres per second. So we're going to put that down as our speed. So V for speed and 30 m/s for metres per second. So speed is in metres per second, time measured in seconds, distance is going to be measured in metres. Now we're going to put the equation down next. I'll just use a different colour for the equation working. On the equation sheet that you're going to get, the equation that links distance, speed and time is written like this. Distance equals speed times time. You can use the symbols because the symbol version is also on the sheet and it's written like this. Now the reason that we're going to be writing it like this is because that's the way it appears on the sheet, and it doesn't matter if you're working out distance, time or speed. That is the correct form of the equation. That is the accepted equation that will get you the first mark for these types of problems. After you've written the equation, we can then take the numbers on the left hand side and put them into the equation. So we don't have a number for distance. So distance just stays as a letter D. Instead of writing V for speed, I'm going to write in the number for speed, which is 30. So that goes in there. Instead of writing T for time, I'm going to write the number that I've got for time that I've been given from the question, which is 300. Now from the equation, and because the letters V and T are side by side, that means I put a multiplication sign in the middle between those two numbers. And all I need to do now is work out what is 30 multiplied by 300. So I use my calculator to find that answer, and that will give me 9,000. And because it's distance, it's going to be measured in metres. And I can underline that now because that's my final answer, because I wanted to find what the distance was. So it's really important that you write out the equation in this form for every speed, distance, time problem. Because like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you have to work out distance, speed or time. It doesn't matter which one you're being asked to work out. This is the correct equation that gets you 1 mark. You then put in the numbers. Again, it doesn't matter if it's distance, speed or time that you're having to work out. You put in 2 out of the 3 numbers that you're given into the correct place in the equation, and that gets you the second mark, and you've already got 2 out of 3 marks for these types of questions. Okay, let's look at the second one now. It's asking you, how long does it take to walk to school if you walk at an average speed of 3 meters per second and you live 900 meters away? So again, start off by listing the information on the left hand side. So it's asking, how long does it take? Which means that we're going to be working out the time. It tells you the average speed is 3 meters per second. And 900 meters is going to be your distance. So we can put this down the left hand side now. T, it asks us how long does it take? So that means T is what we're trying to find. So that equals question mark, because that's the missing one, the one that we're trying to find. V is 3 meters per second. So that goes in next. And distance, it says 900 meters. Okay, and that's the list finished. Now again, it doesn't matter this time that we're working out time, because it's the same equation that links these 3 things together. So I write down distance equals VT. If you want to write it as V times T, that's fine as well. So that's how I get the first mark. Then I need to put the numbers in. Now last time, I didn't have a number for distance. So that just stayed as the letter D. This time, I do have a number for distance. It's 900. So instead of writing the letter D, I write down the number 900. And then the equal sign comes next. After that, I've got a number for V, which is 3 this time. So instead of writing V, I put down 3 in its place. And time is the one that's missing, so that has to stay as the letter T. And then the multiplication sign goes in between those two because they are side by side. Now if I do nothing else for this problem, even if I write no more after this line, I'm still going to get this mark and I'm going to get this mark. So I've already got 2 out of 3 without having to do anything else. What I need to do now is I want the time by itself. Now at the moment the time is joined on, if you like, to the number 3 here because it's being multiplied by 3. So what needs to happen is this number 3 is being multiplied by the time. What I need to do is I need to move this across because I want the time by itself. Now when I move this across, it's going to need to go underneath the number 900. So what I would write down next is 900 stays where it is on the left at the top. The times 3 moves across to the other side and goes below the 900. I can put the equal sign in where it is, and all I've got left on the right hand side now is the time T. Now what I can do is I can then change that to write T equals 900 over 3. Try and move this down out of the way now. There we go. Because T is what I want to try and find. So now that I've got a sum to work out, I can then find out what the answer for T is. And if you do 900 divided by 3, you get an answer of 300 seconds. And we underline that because it is our final answer. So as I said earlier, the first step for these, it doesn't matter which one you're asked to find. It doesn't matter if it's time, speed or distance. This is the first line that you write down. D equals VT or D equals V times T. Both of those will get you 1 mark. You then replace the letters with the numbers that you've listed on the left. And that gets you the 2nd mark without having to do anything else. And remember, the equations are all listed on the equation sheet. You do not have to memorise equations in physics. You're always given a list of all the equations that you have to use. Okay, let's try one more example. We've worked out a distance. We've also worked out a time, so let's work out a speed now. Find the average speed of a motorboat which takes 350 seconds to cover a 10,000 metre course. So the same steps are going to be followed again. It asks me to find the speed. So that's going to be V. It takes 350 seconds. That's going to be the time, T. And it's got 10,000 metres. That's going to be the distance, D. So now I have to make a list. V equals question mark, because that's the one I'm trying to find. T is next, is 350 seconds. And then finally, distance is 10,000 metres. Okay, so now step 1, equation again. D equals VT or D equals V times T. Whichever one you prefer, because both of them mean the same thing. Then I need to replace the letters with the numbers. So on the left, I've got a number for distance, it's 10,000. So instead of writing the letter D, I write the number 10,000. Then I put an equal sign. And for V, it's a question mark. So V just stays as V. For time, I've got a number, so I replace the letter T with the number 350. And because V and 350 are side by side, that means multiply. Now what I want is I want V by itself. Now at the moment, it is attached to the multiplication sign and the 350. So this means that this 350 needs to go across to the other side of the equal sign. The 10,000 that's on the left already has to stay where it is. And the 350 is going to go across and go underneath. Then I put my equal sign in, and then I'm just left with V on the left hand side, and the right hand side. So now what I can do is swap that around because I want a line that says V equals. So they're just going to swap round like that, and I have 10,000 over 350. If I work that out using my calculator, because you can always use your calculator in physics, you never have to work things out in your head. And what I get is 28 point, and it comes up with a few numbers after the point, so I'll write a couple of them down. 57142. Now I don't want that many numbers after the point, So I'm going to round my final answer before I underline. So if I look at this part here, okay, and use my rules from maths for rounding, I look at the 7, and the 7 is a number between 5 and 9. That means I'm going to round this number here, the 5, is going to be rounded up. So instead of 28.57142, I'm going to round that up to give me a final answer of 28.6 metres per second. And that's my final answer. So when you're doing equation problems, you follow the same steps every time for every equation. Number 1, you make your list of values down the left hand side. Second, you write the equation. That links all the values together. And this equation is going to come from your equation sheet. So you never have to memorise any equations in physics. When we're working on problems, we will tell you what the equation is first. It will sometimes be written at the top of the problem sheets so that you don't have to memorise it. Your third step is to substitute. And by substitute, what we mean is replace the letters in the equation with numbers. And then your final step is to find the final answer and write this with units. Because your final mark can't be given if your final answer doesn't have units. So you're following the same steps that I've just shown you for every single equation problem. And now what you can do is you can try the rest of the problems on this sheet using those steps and see how you get on. You can post work on Teams or you can email me work on Teams for me to check.